Anderson, I want to grow up to be just like you, except I don't have any money and neither do my parents. What do I do? And he said, you know, young man, you should get your real estate license. Take the limits off of your income that you can earn, and you also get to see the best deals and you get to buy those deals. Boom. But you need to be doing something that's going to give you the opportunity to become an owner. And ownership is where freedom lives.
All right, episode 73, Stay Classy podcast. Here we go. Daron Campbell, thanks for joining us today. How are you, man?
My pleasure. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you, man. So, Daron, just a quick background, has almost, 30 years now of experience in real estate?
Just over 30 years.
Just out of college after UCLA. Go Bruins.
Go Bruins.
And you've closed over $4 billion in transactions and have distinguished yourself internationally as an investor, income property broker, and you also do some coaching as well, which we're going to get into. But first of all, the question I wanted to ask right away is just like, what makes you so passionate about the industry? What got you into it? Obviously, you've made a lot of money, but what makes you passionate about real estate and passionate about what you do?
I'm passionate about real estate because real estate can change anyone's life. And that's what excites me about it. It changed my life. Now I'm trying to use it and utilize it to change other people's lives. And there are very few things that you can predictably say will grow your financial net worth, will create legacy wealth for you, and give you the ability to truly get free. A lot of people never experience true freedom. And real estate is a vehicle. There are many vehicles, but real estate is a vehicle that can create that freedom for you. And it's one of the few that can create it predictably.
Do you feel like with the way that housing prices are going nationally, but also specifically in California, we have some of the most expensive zip codes in the country. Do you feel like the dream of building wealth through owning a single family home is still achievable and possible for the middle class, for regular Americans, or do you feel like that's sort of slipping away?
The longer you wait, the further it slips away from you. I think it's totally possible. There are windows of opportunity in a marketplace where you can jump in. There are windows where they create opportunities for first-time home buyers. There are also windows where you could step out of a market so that you can get back in that market. You can go slightly outside of San Diego, slightly outside of LA, and buy something in a different county and watch that grow by 15, 20% over a couple of years and then come back. So the only crime is in not being in the game.
Yeah.
That's where you lose. If you get in the game, there's a way to graduate.
And the misassumption or the mistake I think some people make is they think that you have to have a lot of available cash to get started. But the reality is that you can get started from a position of low capital as long as you leverage your capital and your credit correctly. Is that right? Like, talk
100%.
about that a bit.
And there are multiple avenues to get in without the traditional large down payment, high credit score, low debt to income ratio. Those are all standard rules for the standard play. But there are other ways. There are other side doors to get in that are a little more creative. I bought my first 2 apartment buildings by having the seller carry all of the financing, 100% financing on 2 apartment buildings because he was motivated. He needed to go and I needed to buy, but I didn't happen to have any money at the time.
Yeah.
I was like, I got an idea. And he's like, is that legal? I go, absolutely, that's legal. And we did it.
Yeah. And was that just a matter of you like being persuasive, or like how do you like negotiate like that?
You start out with the motivated seller. This guy wanted to go and move to Guatemala and do some mission. Don't ask. I don't know. But he was motivated to sell. He had these 2 junky apartment buildings. He asked me to sell them for him quickly. And I realized that in that condition, it's going to be hard to find a buyer to pay him what he wants. But then I came up with an idea in the middle of the night. That's when all the best ideas show up. And I said, what if I buy them from him? He wants to go in a hurry. I got a way he could sell them in a hurry. And that's a way I can buy in a hurry with no cash. I was like, listen, I got an idea for you. I'll buy those buildings from you. Only problem is I don't have any money. But you could carry the paper. You be the bank. I'll send you a check every month. After I collect the rents, I'll clean up the buildings, and then I'll buy you out within 2 years.
When was this? Was this after an early point in your career, or was this like later?
It was way early.
Way early.
27 years ago.
Because I feel like to get to that position of like credibility and like reputation, like you kind of have to establish yourself a bit first, right? Like you have to sort of build that credibility that, you're good for it.
It helps when you have that credibility, but when we've got a seller that's motivated enough, they're capable of doing anything. Look, the buildings were the security for the loans. Yeah. If I didn't pay him, he'd just take his buildings back.
Sure.
So he wasn't risking so much. He was just walking without the cash that you traditionally would put down for a guy like that.
So you found a point of leverage in that situation. Is that something you really teach and coach other investors to do as well, as like finding those points of leverage? Like talk about that a bit.
Leverage is the most important word in the business language. Most people don't have the cash to go and buy anything all cash. So those of us that start out with lesser means have to find an opportunity to leverage. The bank loaning you 90% on your first home, that's leverage. Finding a seller who'll carry the paper because he really wants to sell fast, that's leverage. So, if you find leverage, you get to move larger objects. And motivated sellers are everywhere. So I teach people in my mentorship, I teach them about the 4Ds. The four most motivated types of sellers are the 4Ds: death, distress, divorce, and dissolution of partnerships. Those are the four most motivated sellers on planet Earth. They're selling out of need, not greed. And so those are the people who you want to buy from. They get creative. They'll do things that the conventional seller wouldn't.
So you teach that specific kind of leverage to gain that access to opportunity in those kinds of situations, the 4Ds.
That's right. And if you know how to find them, they're all over the place.
Yeah. So one thing I realized is that we kind of got straight into the topic, but just backing up a bit about your background, like for people who don't know your story, don't know where you're from, where are you from? Like, how did you end up in LA, and what was your sort of rise to prominence like?
Well, it's a fun story. I was born in Chicago and lived there until I was 14 years old. And my parents divorced, and my mother, brother, sister, and myself decided, let's get a new start. We moved to California. I was 14 years old. My dad decided he wasn't going to pay alimony or child support, so we struggled. My mom got a job at a dry cleaners. I went to Dorsey High in LA. I was always a pretty good student. I was a straight A student, pretty much K through college. And so fortunately, I did really well. I got into UCLA, went to UCLA, majored in economics, had a bunch of job offers on graduation day, but the most intriguing one was in UCLA development, which was fundraising. And that's where I got to do research on what wealthy alums we were going to be able to ask for a big gift to the university. That's where I learned that most of the high net worth people were high net worth because of their real estate, more so than whatever their career was. You might be a wealthy surgeon, but he might make $500,000 a year as a surgeon, but his real estate was worth $15 million. He owned 5 houses. He owned 3 apartment buildings. And so the common theme as I'm doing the research and I'm figuring out who to ask for the money, I'm finding real estate, real estate, real estate, real estate. The wealthiest of them all had real estate. I said, you know what? I'm in the wrong game. I need to get out of this. I need to get into real estate. So I quit my job. I got my real estate license. I joined a firm called Marcus & Millichap, which focuses on the sale of apartment buildings. And I jumped in there, rose pretty fast, started making real money pretty fast. The best part of the story is about my 3rd year into the real estate business, I bought that dry cleaners and gave my mom the keys. I said, now that's your dry cleaners.
What was that moment like?
The best moment of my life. Period, point blank, nothing else to talk about.
Yeah. What about, was it an epiphany where you realized, hey, like real estate is where the real money is to be had? Or was this a very gradual, like in the course of your job, just sort of figuring out like, oh, these are what all the top net earners, all the top donors have in common? Was there, or there was like a single moment in day where you're like, you know what, like I'm dropping it all?
Well, the process of realizing, it became clearer and clearer as I'm seeing, what UCLA has a library about the size of your studio.
Oh yeah.
Nothing but dockets of people who've gone there. They got one on you, a docket of who went there, what he makes, estimated, what he owns. And my job is to look through these things all day long and say, let's ask him for $1 million. Let's ask him for 12 million. Let's ask like that.
Yeah.
So, but then it starts hitting you in the nose really fast that all these people with the high net worth own 40 properties, 20 properties, 6 apartment buildings. And so that part was kind of gradual. But the part that one day I woke up in the middle of the night and go, I got to quit this job. I got to get into real estate. However, I got to get into it. I got to get into it.
Yeah.
And so it's funny because I called my mother and I said, hey, Mom, I'm going to quit my job. She goes, oh, no. I go, I'm going into real estate.
No parent wants to hear that.
No, she wants to hear it. She's like, well, how much does that pay? I said, nothing. She's like, oh, no.
Even better news.
She's like, oh, no. I was like, it's commission. Yeah. You get paid when you sell something. She goes, oh, don't do that. Well, 3 years later, when I gave her the keys to that dry cleaners and a brand new Mercedes, I was like, Mom, how you like real estate now? She's like, oh, I like real estate.
So, but what was the, like, at the beginning? It's so, I feel like it's just the intimidating part for a lot of people, just getting started, when you don't know anything, when you don't have the information, when you don't have the education, and, you even worked in a different field. So what was key early on in the stages of your real estate career, your investing career, that allowed you to be successful from the beginning? Like, what were the starting steps? Were there people, like mentors that you turned to, a book that you read? What were the key development stages for you?
Well, mentors have always been a big part of my life. And one of the first mentors who didn't even know he was a mentor was a gentleman that wrote an $18 million check to UCLA, John Anderson, the Anderson School. You're familiar. And I spoke to him at a football tent party, the chancellor's tent at a football party and a football game. And I said, Mr. Anderson, I want to grow up to be just like you, except I don't have any money and neither do my parents. What do I do? And he said, you know, young man, you should get your real estate license. Take the limits off of your income that you can earn, and you also get to see the best deals and you get to buy those deals. Boom. That's all I needed to hear.
Yeah.
And then that was actually a common theme. I heard it from 2 or 3 different very, very, very wealthy people. And that's all I needed to know.
Did you ever talk to him again? I'm just curious. Was that the only?
Never talked to him
thing you
again.
heard
One
from him?
conversation changed my life.
Your life.
Yep.
Yeah, just like that.
Yep.
UCLA is awesome, man.
That's the best. It's the best.
I feel like, you know, like we could go all day about the different alumni and stuff, but
Yeah.
I mean, for real, like, you know, that's basically where the internet started. That's like where a lot of the greats came from was UCLA. And you know, I hate to admit it, but our crosstown rival, you know, has some pretty good alums as well. But I just feel like when you have, it's such a unique time in your life, you have all these intellectual like power dragons in one single room, like at the same time. Like college is such a unique experience. Was there like a moment or maybe several moments from your college experience that sort of like pushed you like that towards what you became later in life?
Well, yeah, a couple of different things. I actually entered UCLA as a pre-med student and thought I wanted to be a physician. And then I signed up for an internship at the medical center as a freshman. 2 things happened. One, Bio 5 was the worst class ever. I hated it to death. And that internship at the hospital, I was just a patient escort.
Yeah.
But it was such a drab, depressing environment. I was like, this ain't me.
It's not you.
I'm an upbeat, happy
your freshman year?
This is freshman year.
Okay.
I'm 17 years old.
Yeah.
I was like, no. If this is how this is, not for me. That night, I changed my major to economics.
You know, what's interesting is because like when I did, so I transferred to UCLA, but my first 2 years I did 2 pre-law internships, DA's office, public defender's office, and that's when I knew law school was not for me because that was
Exactly.
that was the dream going into school was I'm gonna you know take an easy major, I'm gonna get all A's, I'm gonna go to law school, I'm gonna take the LSAT, and that dream quickly fell apart when I talked to actual law students. They're like, hey, like you know this shit's a grind, man. Like they're all on like freaking like Adderall and cocaine, and they're just like chugging away, like hating their lives, and I'm like, man, dude, like that's not me. Like I don't want to stay in school for that long, and I want to love what I do on a regular basis, and not just, you know, some of the time. Like I want to wake up excited about what I do. So it seems like I can sense in you, like there is that passion. Like it's obviously been a moneymaker, but it's also been something that you look forward to, something that you're excited about is making the deals, making other people successful in addition to yourself. Like talk about that passion that you have, like that goes just beyond the financial aspect of it, but it's just the success part of it, like making deals and helping other people do the same.
Well, the key to anything, the key to happiness, in my opinion, is to do something that you care about that also fulfills all of your hopes and dreams. So for me, this is year number 31, and I have not felt like I've worked a day in my career. It's like, it's that much pleasure. I wake up excited. What could happen today? I could make $1 million today. What could happen today? There's somebody's going to buy something from me that they didn't even know they were going to buy yesterday. I mean, that. And then the capacity to take the limits off of your income, the limits off of your earning capacity. That's just exciting to me. And now at this sort of advanced stage in the business, being the kind of the expert that I am, I'm excited about giving back and helping other people get, I call it showing them behind the curtain, because real estate's like this veiled kind of mystery to most people. And I want to get to the regular people and pull the curtain back and say, look, you can own this also. A couple of things that are kind of ironic. You see all these large apartment buildings all over the place. San Diego's got a bunch of them. LA's got a bunch of them. And people think a corporation owns that building and I'm going to pay rent to a corporation. Do you know 8 out of 10 of those large apartment buildings are owned by a person? A person, not a company, a person. Even the office buildings and things, you see HealthNet or whatever, Chase at the top of that building. Chase doesn't own that building. Chase is a tenant in that building. And in many cases, an entrepreneur owns that building, a guy. A
singular individual.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so the general public doesn't know that. But when you learn that individuals are the largest property owners on the planet, then you realize I could do it too.
I feel like that's what you're all about, right? And your coaching and your career is like empowering people.
That's
It's like just from the conversation we're having, I can tell that it's not just about your own trajectory towards success, but it's like, how do I disseminate that knowledge, disseminate this information to empower other people to do what I did? Now, I wanted to talk about one thing that you talked about in college, that you got the scholarship through the Jackie Robinson Foundation. Is that right?
That's
So
correct.
talk about now on the other side of that, what you do as the chairman of that foundation and how you actually empower people who are in your position to reach the level of success that you did.
Yeah, the beautiful thing is I won the Jackie Robinson Scholarship coming out of high school, which made all the difference in paying for my UCLA education. And then flash forward, first of all, I had this mission in my head. I want to be the first Jackie Robinson scholar to give the scholarship back, which I did. I was able to do years ago. And I wanted to continue to fund scholarships, which I do. And these are the best and the brightest of kids whose parents might not have all the capital to just write the check. You know how expensive universities are. And so in about over 100 universities across the country, the Jackie Robinson Foundation funds all of these scholars. Matter of fact, we just flew all current 240 scholars to New York for a 5-day long weekend, took them to a Broadway show. Anyway, it's a great organization, but it's for people that are achieving. They're doing it on multiple levels. Academically, they're participating in student government, they're volunteers, and we just take the best and the brightest and we give them a boost.
Yeah.
And it made a world of difference for me. And so now as the chairman of the selection committee for the scholars, I'm having a great time. That's my give back. It's the best thing I do.
Enjoying this episode? Subscribe for more content on finding your own path to success. Every subscriber makes a huge difference to the pod, and we're grateful for everyone. And don't forget to throw us a classy like and comment too to let YouTube know that you're a fan of our stuff. Now back to your regularly scheduled podcasting.
Well, it's also people who they are talented, but they come from maybe a position of disadvantage, or they their parents didn't make a lot of money, or they were maybe raised by a single parent household or something along those lines. And then you take somebody like that and you equip them with the skills and the training that they need to get to that next level by giving them the access to a college education. So talk about how rewarding that is for you personally to be able to give back in that way, for you personally to see that fruit sort of develop in other younger people.
It's everything.
Yeah.
One of my favorite sayings is success is not complete once you have achieved it. It then becomes your obligation to help someone else who might not have otherwise had the chance. I live by that. I want to help the next guy. I want to help the ones coming up behind me. I want to help the ones that might not have gotten a chance or might have had to go to a lesser university just because of money. They can go to a UCLA or Harvard or Stanford. This scholarship proves that those kids are equipped to make it, but many times they just get left out because of money or because of circumstance. And that's just not right. We're trying to level the playing field a little bit,
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the way that college is now is, and I don't want to get too sidetracked because I know we're talking about business and career stuff, but the way college is now, I feel like there's a lot of questions about the validity of that 4-year college experience, and specifically about, when you're paying however much it is that people are paying a year for college, are you actually getting the value back in the professional world post-graduation, or do you just end up, with a lot of student debt and, a case of alcoholism? So,
right.
But seriously though, like I feel like that's being called into question now. So for you, do you have a perspective about like the continued value in 2024 and moving forward of the 4-year college degree, or do you encourage people to pursue those sort of non-traditional routes and pathways towards success?
I am much more a fan today of entrepreneurship, and I think we're making a big mistake in school not teaching more about business, entrepreneurship, ownership in particular. We've been kind of groomed to go out and get educated and then get a job.
Yeah.
And I think that model is a little bit broken because, one, the typical kid comes out of college owing $250,000 before they even get started. They got
They're already in the red.
Student loans,
Yeah.
you're $250,000, and then the jobs they tend to be like mediocre type jobs. Kids making 40, 50 grand, and you're $250,000 in debt. That's a bad equation. And then no longer does that degree automatically dictate that you're going to get the type of job in that type of field. There's very little correlation now between, a political science degree, an economics degree, and a specific job. You got to go to grad school to get more specific. And so now I go another $500,000 in debt. You know what I mean? And so the system is no longer predictable. And therefore, people who have sales skills or talents or other things, I don't think we should be pushing everyone toward college.
It's not a must anymore.
It's not a must anymore.
Yeah, yeah. Do you feel like there's a sense in which like college maybe hasn't fully served its purpose, but it's almost secondary to the importance of the connections and the network you make through that college experience than the actual education itself? Because you're just talking about, you and I are examples of people who, did unrelated degrees to what we pursue now. So for you, like, talk about the importance of the connections and that network that you get through college.
I think that is the most important benefit from college. And I love the universities that really emphasize the use of that network.
Yeah.
Our rivals do that really well.
Yeah.
And the Harvards and the Stanfords, they really, really push the collegiate connection long after school is finished. And that tends to be the most valuable thing from it that I think you can get. You and I both know this. I went to college to kind of grow up. That's kind of where I grew up. I went from a boy to a man, and that was valuable. But from a monetary or career earning standpoint, that value has been diminished.
Yeah. Do you, so for now, like moving forward into, 2024 as we move forward, like for you and your coaching and the way that you coach people in real estate and in life in general, like what, other than like the conversation that we just had, are some of the most important tips for people specifically in their 20s? Like, so I guess, what are we, Gen Zers? I think I'm a Gen Zer.
You're Gen Zer.
Gen Zers or early millennials.
Yes.
Like what's sort of the advice you give people in that situation, assuming that the education part is out of the way, but when people are just getting started, like how do you coach people in that direction?
The emphasis in my teaching, coaching, training is you got to find your way to ownership. So you might have to work a job for 5 years, 7 years, 10 years. That's fine. But you need to have something entrepreneurial on your mind. And in my lane, it's real estate, because I know real estate, and I think real estate is the most predictable way to obtain wealth and freedom. But everyone, regardless of what the path is or what the career path is that you're currently on, you need an entrepreneurial lane to be considering. You want to call it a side hustle, call it a side hustle. Sure. But you need to be doing something that's going to give you the opportunity to become an owner. And ownership is where freedom lives. That's it. Punching a clock, working a 9 to 5, working for somebody else who could wake up on the wrong side of the bed and end your career. There's no freedom in that. You're busy tiptoeing for that guy forever.
I think it's a cliche, but I'll just say it anyways, is that, you either at some point in life end up, building your own dream or working for someone else who's building it or building someone else's. So,
that's right.
So I think but it's true, right? Is like, and there's nothing wrong with the 9 to 5, like we need that, we need that, like that builds the world that we have. But at the same time, like if you're trying to pursue that freedom, that ownership you're talking about, I think that the entrepreneurial route is absolutely the way to go. And it doesn't have to be the traditional like corporate business model either. No. But even what you did, I feel like was sort of non-traditional. But talk about like some of the habits, like entrepreneurial habits that you developed that allowed you to be successful to the level that you were, like specific, because everybody has like an idea or a spurt of motivation for a business idea or to go out and do their own thing. But what were some of the habits, the routines that built towards success for you?
That's easy. I'm a voracious reader. I've probably read 1,000 books. I tell my kids I probably got 9 or 10 college educations just through the volume of information I consume. I listen to Audible books on double speed. Sounds like Mickey Mouse talking in my ear. And I read books. Like at night, I fall asleep reading. I'm always trying to educate myself and better myself and learn more so that I can know a more intelligent way. Because the thing is, there are better ways. There's a better way to earn a buck than the way you and I earn it. There's a better way to save money than the way. I'm always trying to learn the better way. And so you might be in a business, you might work for a guy who makes tables, but then there's a better way to make a better table for lesser dollar that's a business that's waiting for you to start. So wherever you are, there's an opportunity to observe and find a better way, or find an entrepreneurial way, or find an offshoot way. Because there's all entrepreneurship is filling a need. Yeah. Look at what's needed out there, and stick your finger in there and get a piece of it.
Now, on the subject of books, we could talk. I love books too, so we could talk about this all day. But for the sake of time, like maybe 1, 2, 3 books that change your life, change the game for you.
Okay, there's a great book. Maybe my favorite book. It's not the big that eat the small. It's the fast that eat the slow. It talks about speed, the speed of business. Second, Outwitting the Devil. We just talked about this at another meeting I had. Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. It's interesting. It's a juxtaposition. It's a dialogue between Napoleon Hill and the devil. And the devil is telling him how he's controlling society with these small-minded ideas. Everyone learns the same way at the same pace in the same classroom, taking the same test, regurgitating the same information. in the book, that's the devil saying, you guys are doing my work for me. You keep your mind small. You're not teaching people to be creative. You're not teaching them to go and be entrepreneurial. And you're serving my purposes. It's a beautifully put lesson. Everybody should read Outwitting the Devil.
I've heard of that one, but I'll add it to the list.
You got to read it. Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Got to read it. Must read. It's on the same level as Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which is another one. So Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Kiyosaki, Secrets of the Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker, same category, but teaches you how entrepreneurs think, how rich people think, how wealthy people think, and how consumers and everybody else thinks. And it's night and day.
What about going back to the real estate stuff. So for 2024 and moving forward, like for somebody who's thinking about getting involved in real estate, like how is the real estate market now, specifically the kind of real estate that you're involved in, like different than it was in the past? Like what's sort of the key to staying up to date, relevant, informed, and sort of in step with current trends in real estate? Like what are some of the keys to that for you?
Well, the key to staying informed is listen to my Instagram posts every day, every chance you get, because I'm going to talk about what's going on today in the marketplace. Daron Campbell. How easy is that? Daron Campbell, like Campbell soup, piece of cake, right?
All right.
So, but the opportunities change, and so you got to be willing to change with the opportunities. So we're just coming out of COVID, where people couldn't get evicted and couldn't get foreclosed on, right? So many people didn't pay their mortgages for 2 whole years, right? Then suddenly when the moratoriums are lifted, the banks are saying, hey, guess what? You owe me $80,000. Guess how many have that $80,000 still laying around? They didn't save the money. They went out and bought a brand new BMW. And so the point is there's thousands upon thousands of people in default right now. So we're focusing our attention on pre-foreclosures. So there's a person who's not in the real estate business yet can be mentored by me or somebody like me and learn where an opportunity exists. And that's in people who are failing or are having trouble catching up or paying their mortgage. So you can step into that position. That's a motivated seller. Did I mention the 4 Ds?
Yes, you did.
Okay.
Divorce was one, death,
distress, and dissolution of partnerships.
Yeah.
See,
like a company like splitting up.
Well, companies splitting up or partnerships have a sunset date, which is the date on which they're going to end the partnership.
Yeah.
It's not by choice. It's by contract.
Yeah.
They said, we're going to get together, we're going to buy that building, and we're going to end this thing in 7 years. And they got to sell that thing in year 7, whether it's up, down, or in between. They're motivated. The foreclosures I'm telling you about, the distressed properties, that's the D, that's the distress. Well, that's what we're buying right now, because all the people who were behind on their mortgages, they're in default right now. So that's what we're focusing on. And that's what I'm teaching people to do in this mentorship, is how to buy properties with very little capital that have potential for big returns. We just did one, just closed one. $29,000 out of pocket, $170,000 more than we paid for is what we sold it for 5 weeks later. So the point is
5 weeks later?
5 weeks. So the point is you can get in low and you can get out high, and that's just a window. It's probably 2 years, 3 years, we'll see this fallout from COVID thing play out. Then there'll be another opportunity. It'll be something else.
It's contingent upon what's going on in the world.
Whether
it's like conflict or disease or what have you. It's contingent on what's going on.
Disease, bad economy, inflation, all of those things contribute to a market condition, and there's always a little lane you can jump into and make a bunch of money because of it. Now, the reason this is the perfect storm is because when the last recession ended, 2010, 2011, property values in every state of the union have gone up 13 years straight. So people, they bought down here, but their property's gone up, nothing but up for 13 straight years. Yeah. So people have equity. But what if I didn't pay my mortgage for 2 years and I'm behind $80,000 in payments, but my equity is up here? I got all this equity, but I'm in default. And they're going to come and foreclose on me. So I'm going to lose all that equity, right? Yeah. So here's an opportunity for an investor to come in and say, hey, look, the property's worth this. You're here, you're behind. I'm going to give you this, and I'm going to buy the property from you.
Pull them out.
And I got all this equity that accrues to who?
Yeah.
The buyer, me.
Yeah.
I saved them. They call me and say, oh my God, you saved my life. But I also made $170,000. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much.
There's opportunity.
How about that?
Did you subscribe yet? If you like our content, it's the easiest way to support the pod. Hit the subscribe button on the bottom right and keep it classy.
What about, so by the way, what's the coaching program called? Like, what's the actual name for people to look up online?
RecessionRichesCourse.com.
RecessionRichesCourse.com. Okay.
And so I run what I call the Recession Riches Academy, is how do you become rich in a recession? And so we're technically, by definition, we're in a recession. Doesn't feel like it, I know, but we are. So I name it that because this is an opportunity for us to learn how to make money during an interesting time. Interest rates have doubled in the last 18 months. Well, that created a de facto recession and helped exacerbate some of these opportunities that we get to take advantage of. A lot of people, when they borrowed that money and bought that house, they bought it at a 3% interest rate. Then suddenly their interest rate's 6%, and suddenly you owe the bank $80,000 because you didn't pay during COVID, and now the interest rate's double.
Ouch.
So owing the bank $4,000 a month is now $8,000 a month, and a lot of people can't handle it. Another thing, 24 million jobs went away during COVID, only 17 million came back. So there's 7 million people who bought houses and had jobs that no longer do. It creates situations,
There's
man.
an opportunity
I
there.
tell people I don't buy real estate, I buy situations. There you go.
Love that line. Not real estate, but situations.
Situations.
That's a good line. What about for like moving forward? So a post-COVID era, we're a few years out of COVID now, or at least the worst of it anyhow. And it seems like, there's a lot going on in the world still, but what is sort of like, if you had to prophesy or I hate to ask you to speculate, but like sort of the next big like opportunity that you see coming on in the next few years, is there anything specific, or are you sort of just like riding the current wave that we just talked about?
Oh, there's much that's specific. Here's what's happening. The United States is in the middle of a housing shortage. There's a housing shortage. Right now, at current count, there are 2 million more families than there are housing units, which means there's a shortage. LA has a shortage. So you got to look at what's going to happen for government to try to fix the shortage, right? So LA is a perfect example. In California, but Los Angeles very specifically, everyone who owns a home can build an additional dwelling unit behind that home. Everyone they say yes to everyone. Whereas 5 years ago, you had trouble getting this. Everybody was like, not in my neighborhood. No, it's too dense. Not enough parking. Nope, that's over. Everybody can build an ADU. Now, watch how they add a wealth building opportunity to that. So now not only can you have your house, but you can have a rental house up to 1,200 square feet, up to 3 bedrooms and 2 baths behind your house, right?
Yeah.
Or next to it or in your garage or whatever. Right. Now, guess what they just did in January? They just said, now you can divide that out and sell it separately.
Was that SB 8?
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. Just happened in January. So occasionally the government, the system, whomever, gives us a window of opportunity to go and invent wealth where it didn't even exist. Poof.
Yeah.
I could build that second house behind that house. I could build that for 200 grand. I could split it off and I could sell that for 600 grand.
How about
Think
that?
about it. Invent money. I love inventing money.
So to you, that looks like the next big wave of opportunity.
That's one of them. Now, COVID has sent a lot of people home to work instead of in the office. So what you're going to see on a large scale, a big corporate scale, is you're going to see office buildings get converted to residential.
Okay. And how does one capitalize on that? Is that just a matter of shifting like your specialty? If you are a commercial real estate investor, just learning how residential works, like learning how to take advantage of those opportunities, or like what does that mean?
Okay, so think about it. There's going to be a big wave of organizations that say, let's buy empty office and convert it to residential. There's going to be a big opportunity for people who know how to consult and teach them how to do that. There's going to be a big opportunity for construction companies who know how to convert those kinds of buildings to those kinds of buildings, right?
Yeah.
There's all this opportunity that gets created when something goes away. You know what I mean? So when Uber gets invented, a whole lot of cab people have to switch and become something else, right? Same thing's happening here. Office product is going to be converted to residential product in a world where we have a housing shortage. Find your way, get in the way of progress, and you can get paid. So find a way into that game, and you can become a wealthy person.
So we've talked a little bit about like moving forward, like what some of the strategies are. I want to go back in time in your story a little bit now.
Okay.
So if it's all right with you, let's go back near the beginning, which is, you moved to LA, as a kid. How old were you when you moved to LA?
14.
14. So you moved to LA when you're 14. You're obviously holding it down in school, and I think you also said you were working a job at the same time, and you're helping two jobs, and you're helping support the family. And I'm just curious. I'm always want to know, like, if everybody has like a different chip on their shoulder, as it were, or a different source of motivation. But during those early years, and even going into college, like, when everyone else is screwing around, everybody else is not focused and not doing the high achieving things that you're doing. Like, sort of what was it about you that was different? And I'm talking about both like sort of intrinsic traits, but also traits that you developed over time. Like, what was different about you that you said, no, I'm not going to screw around. I'm not going to go party. I'm not going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to actually focus on the academics. I'm going to focus on supporting the family. Like, that gave you that extra chip on your shoulder.
Well, that's what it was. My parents divorced, left us in a struggling situation financially. We even got to the point where we got evicted once, and we spent a night or two in a car. And so really what motivated me was my mother. I'm sitting in the back seat sleeping. She's sitting in the front seat, and I'm thinking, I'm going to end her suffering. It's on me. I didn't care if my older brother and sister thought the same way. I was like, I got to fix this. I can't let this be her existence. So that was the first chip on my shoulder. The divorce thing and all that was embarrassing. It was humiliating, all of that, and painful in a lot of ways. And so, as a matter of fact, a week after I'm sitting in that back seat thinking, this cannot be how we live our life, I went and got my first job at 14 years old. And I've been working ever since. But there's this gotta win chip on my shoulder where it's like, you know what? If somebody can make $1 million, then I can make $1 million. And I'm gonna find out how to do it. And it's just, I've been driven like that ever since. And I know there are a lot of people out there that still struggle. So now my mission is to cure that struggle for a lot of people. It's not rocket science what I do, but if you've never been exposed to it, if nobody ever told you about it, if nobody ever taught you, then you're stuck in your position, right? Yeah. So I'm exposing the opportunity to hopefully thousands of people and changing their lives. And this is teaching somebody how to fish. I'm not giving you a fish. I'm teaching you how to fish. And once you learn that, you can't unlearn it. I could drop you in any city in the United States and you could become a real estate millionaire within 2 years. After what I teach.
Well, what I love about your story too is like from the very beginning, it's never been about you. Like it's not, first, it was that there was that incentive to, I want to help mom, but then it was, I want to help other people who are in my position. And then it's like getting even further than that. Now that's, a national, a global kind of impact of, unlocking information, unlocking opportunity. It seems like the theme of your life and your legacy has always been like so much bigger than you.
Well, you know what? If you really think about it carefully, it's perfectly poetic. I learned early on that if you help other people get what they want, you get everything you want. And so I learned that early in my sales career in real estate. It's like this guy's he's on a mission. He wants to grow his net worth. He wants to buy an apartment building. I'm going to help him do that. And then I'm going to get a really big paycheck to help him do it. And then he wants another one. And then I'm going to help him do it again. And then his family wants to own a portfolio. And I'm going to help him buy 57 buildings. I got one family that bought 57 buildings from me. I helped them get what they want. I made a ton of fees off of those 57 deals and many others. And so helping them achieve what they want in a very genuine way, truly wanting to help them get to their goals, helped me get to mine. And so I know that just helping others pays off in exponential ways.
What about, and last couple questions here. One is like, at the end of the day, when it's all said and done, like moving beyond the accomplishments you've already made, and there are many, but is there anything sort of left on the table you're like, I would still love to do this or try this or have this kind of impact? Like when it's all said and done, when you close the book on your life, like what do you want sort of that final legacy and sort of final impact to look like?
I want to have changed 5,000 lives. I want to make 5,000 families financially independent with a financial legacy and have them taste freedom. I know there's a lot of people that don't know what freedom tastes like, don't know what it smells like, never seen it, and don't even expect to have it. And so what I want to do, like I go back to Dorsey High School every year and I speak to that student body and tell them, hey, yeah, I used to sit in that chair. I drove over here in that Bentley, but I used to sit in your chair. And somebody like you who comes from where you come from, who dealt with what you're dealing with, can get to here from there. And that's what I want to do for thousands of people. And that's why I'm the regular guy who is the real estate guru.
Yeah. People who are listening to this, who are fired up right now, motivated, like how can people get a hold of you? How can people get involved in your programs and in your coaching, that sort of thing?
Well, they can go to Recession Riches. Oh, you can go to recessionrichescourse.com and sign up for my free course because you got to give something away for free. So I give them a big chunk of it for free. If you don't even have $1, you can learn from me. You can go to my Instagram, Daron Campbell is my Instagram, my LinkedIn and all that. Everything's just my name, my Facebook, my Instagram. And I'm here to give. If you really want to go deeper, you can get involved. You can get mentored by me. But everybody can learn something from me. Everybody should own real estate. I don't care what your profession is. You should own real estate because that's what creates legacy wealth. And you need to own it. You need to be able to leave real estate and that kind of wealth to your kids, and they leave to their kids, and then change the trajectory of your family's financial future. I'm Daron Campbell. I'm the hardest working man in real estate, and I'll see you where? At the top.
All right. Awesome. All right, guys. Oh yeah, that's a wrap.
This has been another recorded episode of Stay Classy Podcast with your host, Steve Wire. Thanks so much for tuning in, and as always, you can find all of our content at our website at stayclassypod.com. And thanks to our production sponsor and partner, MaxLux Media. You can find them at maxluxmedia.com. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel on YouTube. Every subscription helps and goes a long way towards ensuring that we can continue to produce content for viewers like yourself. Thanks so much. Stay classy.